Willa Latham with my beautiful antique porcelain. Today I have a plate that is quite unusual, quite different from most things in my collection, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about it. It is a chinoiserie design, and the term chinoiserie stands for a style of design that has Chinese elements in it. It's basically imitations of Chinese design. This was made in about 1820 by a company called Hilditch. They were active between 1811 and 1833. Not very long, but they had a huge output, particularly of this type of chinoiserie designs. And I'm going to show you a little bit more in detail. Now, this pattern is called The Boy with the Spotted Dog. And here's the boy with his spotted dog. There's actually also a little white dog that's just lying on the floor, but this one he's playing with, and his mother is fussing over him. And you can tell they are wealthy people because there is a servant with a green parasol. They're not royals because otherwise the parasol would be gilt, but this is a green parasol, so they're just very wealthy people. And then the father is watching the whole scene while smoking his pipe. And they're seated in a very Chinese sort of scene with a pagoda and, of course, a little boat on the lake, which you often see on these Chinese scenes. But then when you look a little bit more carefully, you think, well, yeah, here's the pagoda, very Chinese. And the father is sitting in a pavilion. But what about this? That doesn't look very Chinese, does it? That looks very Muslim. It looks a bit like a mosque or a Mughal palace. That's very interesting. And then when you look at the center of the picture, there is this beautiful vase of flowers, which reminds you of 17th century Dutch paintings of flower arrangements, you know, these still lifes. And in fact, my Dutch mother would always have a vase of flowers on the dining room table, a bit arranged like this. So what's going on here? This is very interesting. So what's going on here is, well, we think globalization is something of our time. It's changed our lives tremendously in the last few decades. It's brought tremendous wealth to the world. It's also brought tremendous problems. At the moment, it's causing a lot of political problems. And we tend to think it's something of, you know, the 20th and 21st century because we're in the middle of a big wave of globalization. But this plate shows that globalization has been around for centuries. Because what's going on here is you have a Chinese design, you have an Indian design, you have a Dutch design made in England. How interesting is that? Basically what happened is that for many, many years, the Chinese were the only ones in the world who were able to produce porcelain at a massive scale. So everybody would go to China to get their porcelain made. Among their most important customers were the Mughal Empire in the north of India, which was a Muslim empire, very wealthy, very powerful, and very art-loving. They loved beautiful art, so they created a lot of beautiful art, and they would also get it from other places. So they would order things in China and get it to India. And the other very important customer was the Dutch, who would trade, and they would bring back all this stuff to Holland and then, you know, trade with the rest of the world. So it was a major middleman. The Dutch were the middlemen for the Chinese porcelain. And what would happen is that people would take items from their own cultures and take them to China and give them to the Chinese and say, could you please make this in porcelain, please? And we'll buy it off you. So the Mughals would come with their beautiful little miniature paintings. They were very famous for that. You can still get them in India. In any sort of market stall, you can get these little paintings. They're beautiful and they have a lot of detail, and people are often seated in these Mughal pavilions. I would think palaces with a little Muslim crescent on top and, you know, little cupolas. Similarly, the Dutch would bring their vases and their saucepots and their ewers and all sorts of items that they couldn't make themselves because they were hard to make in earthenware and they couldn't make porcelain yet. So they would take them to China in silver, give them to the Chinese and say, could you please make this in porcelain? And then the Chinese would go and make them in porcelain. And similarly, they would also bring paintings and little images so that the Chinese could copy those images and make images that would feel more sort of at home for people in the West. So that's how this vase of flowers, which to me looks very, very Dutch, ended up in the middle of a Chinese painting. And all of this was made in England. How cool is that? So I hope you enjoyed this. You can find this wonderful plate in my shop. It's at gentlevattelofchina.com. And please press subscribe if you like this so you get my video every week. You can find me on Instagram every single day and on YouTube every week. And I hope to see you again next week. Thank you for watching.